So today I'm joined by Chelsea Connor. She's a pro MMA fighter. Welcome to the program, Chelsea.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I wanted to have you on to kind of talk about what's going on in your future. I think you have a couple fights coming up. But before we kind of do that, let's talk about where you're from. Are you from Ohio?
I am. Yep. Piqua, Ohio.
Okay, gotcha. And you're training over there with, I think, Dylan Budka, or I think at least nearby?
Yeah. Dylan's about an hour and a half north of me, so we do a lot of cross training with him. But my gym is, like I said, about an hour and a half south of his gym. And that's Smileback Training Center.
Okay, awesome. So what was it like for you growing up in Ohio? I heard it's kind of hit or miss. Some people have good experiences, some people don't. So how was yours?
Lots of cornfields.
Lots of
I
cornfields?
yeah, I I grew up on a horse farm out in the country, so nothing too eventful. A lot of farm work.
Okay. Is that what your kind of life was? You grew up on a farm, so you're kind of dealing with horses and stuff?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever seen that show Yellowstone?
I have seen like a little bit. I'm really not like I don't have the time honestly to watch a whole lot of
Yeah.
television, so I've never like consumed myself with it, but I know a lot of people talk about it and really love it.
Yeah, I just bring it up because one of the takeaways I had from that show was like the cowboys and stuff and working with horses.
Mhm.
It makes you pretty tough. Like you don't
Yeah.
have a choice. You have to be tough dealing with those animals. So is that something that kind of gave you a little bit of toughness? And did what kind of work did you do with the horses, if anything?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think that was a lot to do with how tough I am. The strength that I have, I'm naturally just stronger than what most females are. So I think that's just being, 4 years old out on a horse farm, carrying 5-gallon buckets all day, throwing bales of hay around, things like that. Definitely gave me a pretty big advantage when it transferred over into sports. I already knew how to work hard, I grew up doing that. It wasn't anything to go spend all day baling hay and then having to go clean horse stalls and feed them and stuff like that. It was, yeah, definitely helped me when it transferred over to sports.
Okay, awesome. And your parents own that farm, I'm assuming, and are probably still doing work on it today?
Yeah, my grandfather actually owned it. So
Okay.
we grew up, yeah, he kind of had the main house, and then my mom and my aunts and uncles all kind of had houses on the same land. So it's still in the family, and there's still horses out there.
Okay, awesome. And what was school like for you? Were you in like a small town where like schools really like local and stuff, or what was your school life like out there?
So I started actually at Graham, which is a really big wrestling school. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go there during high school. I moved to Jackson Center, which was another small country school. So yeah, school was just uh, it was a country setting, and just a lot of the first school that I started out was a bigger school, more variety of friends. And then when I changed schools to Jackson Center, it's a very small, clicky type school. So that wasn't the funnest thing to deal with.
Okay, I got you. But you finished school and all that as well?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. And as far as like your upbringing and stuff like that, I hear there's like some like drugs or something like that out there, but you avoided all that, huh? Because you were out in the country.
Yeah, yeah, no, we
Yeah.
drugs are like real bad in the Dayton area, which it was about an hour south of where I grew up
Okay.
from. So, drugs were never really anything that I had to worry that much about.
Okay, well, good for you then. And
Yeah.
last thing, kind of about your upbringing and stuff, and like just to round it out, where do you live now? Do you still live in the country, or do you live in a city somewhere?
So now I kind of live outside of the city in the suburbs. So
Okay.
it is kind of right there in the middle of this where I was living in the city for a little while, and that will drive you crazy when you're used to being out in the country.
Yeah.
But it's convenient as well. I get why people live in town because it makes traveling and things very convenient. So it was nice in that aspect, but just having people on top of you, not really my vibe. So it's nice now where we live because we still have people around and it's still close enough to town, but it's not in town. It's outside. You know,
Hmm.
we have the cornfields around us, which is homey to me.
Okay. Is it like a suburb or like a city that you live in? Because you know, like maybe comparing like New York, is it really city like, or is it more kind of spaced out where you live?
Oh, it's a lot more spaced out. Nothing like New
Right.
York. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. Just so like people
it's
can put a picture in their mind.
it's very rural.
Very rural with the cornfields and all that stuff, like you
Yes.
mentioned, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and then how did you get into MMA?
So growing up, my uncle did karate, and I was always kind of interested as a young kid and how just the way he presented himself, the way he carried himself. He was a very humble, confident person. And I had always wanted to do kind of what he was doing. I didn't have the opportunity as a kid, and then when I turned 18, I found an MMA gym. I was actually trying to join the Marine Corps and had a bit of a weight issue. So it was kind of the next best thing. And I went into a gym and kind of fell in love with it right from the start.
Oh wow. Okay, so no wrestling in high school or anything you weren't allowed to. Did you want to train though?
Yeah, I would have loved to. The high school that
Okay.
I went to didn't offer wrestling. So unfortunately, I didn't get to wrestle. I would have loved to. If I had wrestling offered, I would have definitely wrestled in high school. Instead, I was stuck with cross country and track and cheerleading.
Hmm. Oh,
So
okay.
not, yeah, it wasn't
What made you do the
anything
cheerleading?
too
Is
fun.
that yeah? What made you do the cheerleading? Is that kind of you as well, or was that something like just new that you wanted to try?
So the cheerleading was actually because my seventh grade year, I had tried out for the basketball team. Well, it wasn't tryouts. Everyone made the team. And then the coach that was coaching it, it was um, her daughter and all of her daughter's friends were playing. So I got to sit the bench. And
Hmm.
that's where it kind of became a really big separation of like, these are the it girls, and I wasn't part of the it girls, but I was still a really good athlete. And those it girls were on the cheerleading squad. So it was kind of a like a stab at them when I tried out for cheerleading, like, oh, you guys thought you didn't have to deal with me. Guess what? I'm still here and I'm a better
Hmm.
athlete than you, so I'm gonna make the cheer squad by default because I'm better than what you guys are. So it
Hmm.
was kind of one of those things that's why I decided
Okay.
to cheer.
Okay, awesome. And that's
Yeah.
actually, I think maybe a lot of guys don't know. I'm sure in like with amongst you women, you guys like know how hard cheer is, but I'm sure a lot of guys don't know that that's like
Hmm.
one of the most athletic sports you can do and one of the most dangerous as well. So it's like
Yeah.
fighting and cheerleading. You might not think it adds up, but like you're kind of explaining, that's how it
Yeah.
connects for you. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. And then
100%.
yeah. And what made you kind of fall into fighting? I think you mentioned, right? You said that the Marine Corps, there was a weight issue. What is that? You have to be a certain weight to join?
Oh, I'm 5'1" on a tall day.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I had to be, I think, like 96 or 98 pounds, which maybe if I cut a leg off, I could get there. But just
Yeah.
the way that I carry weight, and at the time I did, I had a little extra weight just from high school and things like that. So I was the weight, even if I wasn't a little heavy at the time, would have still been a problem for me with
Hmm.
how small they wanted me for my height.
Okay. And I didn't even know that at all. Were they willing to work with you, but you were just like, no, like I'm not interested in this at this moment?
No, they tried. I tried to get waivers. I don't know that they tried as much as I tried because I was trying for like 6 months. And the crappy thing was I could do all the physical, the PT stuff. I could do better than all the guys. So it wasn't that I
Hmm.
wasn't physically able to. It was just a weight. It literally, I was too short and too heavy, you know. So
Okay.
I did try. I tried for a solid 6 months and just it didn't didn't happen for me.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, all right, I just got to get over
Yeah,
this. So then
yeah,
you fell into MMA and did you kind of love it at first? I mean, MMA is also a hard sport, but like we kind of talked about, you're a tough woman. So
yeah.
was it something that was love at first sight, or you had to get used to it as well?
No, it was definitely love at first sight. Instantly, The first time that I went into the gym, and that was back in 2009, so training was a bit different than what it is now. Very old
Hmm.
school. You just
Which,
come in.
yeah, if you could explain that too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was, there was really no technique being taught. It was like, hey, are you tough? You like to, you think you want to fight? Like, go ahead, put some gloves on and come in here and spar. And so I did that. And I remember the first time that I got punched in the face, it was cool punching people. I did enjoy that. But the first time that I got punched in the face, I was like, oh, I liked it way more than I probably should have. And I just
Okay.
knew, like, hey, this is my thing. Like I do not mind getting hit at all. And it kind of gives me like when I get hit, I then am able to implement my game plan of like, hey, this is what I need to do. So it was definitely a love at first sight type thing.
Okay, awesome. And then, yeah, actually, just off of that a little bit, I was listening to Sean Strickland's interview. He did a podcast with some bodybuilder like about 9 months ago, if you want to go and watch it. But he was talking about the early days when he used to train. And he's like, yeah, like today's fighters versus like the last generation's fighters are a lot different. And apparently, like at Team Quest or something, they used to have these full on sparring sessions, and like they were their own little UFC inside their gym. Like, you know, you beat so and so last week, so now you're fighting so and so this week, and then like they're just eliminating each other basically, and they
Yeah.
had to stop. But that's kind of what you're talking about. You got into sparring right
Yeah.
away. Now it seems like they take care of people in the beginning.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In the beginning, and I own my own gym now. So yeah, we make sure that it is nothing like the old days because very much like you just explained, that was a very real thing. You would go in and it
Yeah.
was like it wasn't you weren't training for anything. You were literally fighting every time you showed up to practice. It was a fight. Like who knows what's going to happen, but we're going to get in here and we're going to fight. So that was yeah, that was a very real thing on how they used to do it back in the day, but now I think most gyms have evolved from that, and I know at least my gym, we definitely don't do it that way.
Yeah. Okay. And I had one follow up off of that. What was it going to be? Something about, oh, how soon did you start fighting after you started training?
That's the crazy thing. I only trained for about a month and a half to 2 months before I got put in there to fight, which
Okay.
I think is a little quick of a turnaround, especially where I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just got in there and was meaner and tougher than the girls that I was fighting, fortunately. You know, like it
Yeah.
worked out for me, but I was not skilled by no means. I'm not proud of
Okay.
my first few fights.
Yeah, I guess looking back, huh? You're like, oh, I should have waited. I have way more
Yeah.
skills now, or something. Yeah.
Yes, big time.
And so as far as like your fighting career goes, it looks like you took a little bit of time off. I think maybe 3 years, if I remember correctly. So what was your layoff? What was the reason for that?
So, I've had two layoffs. The first one, I had had a kid, and then my second one, I had had another kid. So it was just time
Okay.
to go be mom. Was the
Okay.
reason for the layoffs. Yeah.
Did you have them both back to back, and that was like that whole gap, or where you had one baby, then you fought and had another baby?
Yeah, I had one, I had fought and then took time off. I think I had about 3 years, 4 years in between that, and then started back up. And then after I took my last layoff, that one lasted 4 to 5 years. So
Okay.
yeah, they were there was a between my kids, there's 8.5 years age gap. So
Oh, gotcha.
after yeah, there's a pretty big age gap.
Okay. And then so now that you're kind of back again for the second time, right? Could what's going on in the future? So you have like a boxing match I think coming up, and then you're gonna want to fight in December or something like that?
Yes, yeah, right now. So I had my last fight, August 26th. I went into that fight banged up and have a little injury that I'm nursing right now. So we're gonna do a little bit of boxing because I can box with the injury, but doing actual MMA is kind of something that I got to get this healed up before I start back into MMA. So we're looking hopefully end of November, beginning of December for MMA, and then probably next month for boxing is the game plan.
Okay, next month for boxing. And do you already have an opponent like in mind at all for the boxing, or how's that looking?
We don't. My boxing coach is working on that. He said basically whenever I'm ready, he can get someone to step in there with me and get it all going.
Okay, so just whenever you're ready, he'll get you an opponent.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and then you fought Alex Pereira's sister, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
Eleni.
so that's pretty awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, like you said, it didn't go your way that night. But
Yep.
I mean, she's a great fighter. So did
Yeah.
you feel like you gained any experience off of that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I honestly thought because she's world class at kickboxing. I mean, her
Right.
striking is the best of the best. And I thought like my reasoning for taking the fight, one, it's the name alone, like why not take the fight? And I was coming off of a 5 year layoff. I had a
Mm-hmm.
kid in that time, so for me, it was a win-win all the way around, no matter what happened in there. Skill level on fighting, I had the edge on how to actually fight. Like she knows how to kickbox,
Mm-hmm.
but that's much different than MMA fighting. So I
Right.
really anticipated, I didn't think she was going to be as big as what she was. Because I went up a weight class to fight her, because I typically fight at 115. So I went up to 125 to fight her. I didn't think she was going to be at that big of a 125er. She's a massive 125er.
Yeah. If anyone
So
wants to see, just go to your Instagram. There's a
yes,
huge
yeah,
height
there's like,
difference.
yeah, yeah, she was
Yeah.
5'9", had a 10.5 inch reach advantage on me. Yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah. But
But go ahead.
no, I was gonna let you go ahead. Go. Do you have anything more?
Okay. Yeah, just the experience of getting in there, with her was amazing. LFA put on an incredible presentation for all of us fighters and took such great care of us. Like Elaney was definitely the draw, and I won't say that's who they wanted to win, because they didn't act that way. Like LFA treated everyone very equally. There was no bias, like, oh, this is Aline
Mm-hmm.
Pereira and we're going to treat you like shit. They didn't do that. They treated me great. And to me, like that, whether I won or lost in there, like that meant the world to me. So it was an awesome experience. Like I'm just grateful that I got the opportunity to get to, be on that stage.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about LFA. Also, like that one, Cage Fury, is another good
Mhm.
amateur promotion. I hear a lot of good things about. So it's good to
Yeah.
know that they treat you well. A few more things I have for you. I guess number one is your ultimate goal is probably to make it to the UFC. Actually, sorry, just before that, take a step back. LFA, your next fight is going to be in LFA still. You're still signed with them.
Yes, that's the plan. November, the end of November, beginning of December. They've not released where exactly they'll be at during that time, but yeah, that is definitely the plan for it
Okay,
to be
great.
with them.
So you're still with LFA. That's where your next fight will be, at least. And then they're a good feeder organization for the UFC. So
Mhm.
hopefully, maybe you can string together a few wins or something and get into the UFC. That's your main goal.
Yeah, yeah. So, Dylan Bucka, he just kind of like springboarded right into the UFC. He's put in so much work and dedication into it. I mean, he's still very young, but man, he has a work ethic like no other. And his manager, who is now my manager as well, really played a lot of behind the scenes roles and how Dylan got elevated as quickly as he did. So he's now doing the same stuff for me. So I would say in the next 6 months or so, we're gonna be seeing me in the UFC. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. And that's Drake, who you're mentioning, right? Drake.
Yes.
What's his last name again? I don't want to get it wrong on here.
Oh my goodness.
Jimenez. I think it's Jimenez.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay. Yeah. And Dylan was mentioning that he's done a lot to help him in his career. So how did you get connected with him? Dylan said he reached out to him like looking for a sponsor and stuff like that. Is it similar story with you, or did you get connected through Dylan?
I got connected through Dylan. I
Okay.
actually Drake is very selective on who like before me it was just Dylan. Like he wasn't looking to pick me up or anything like that. And then he was actually Dylan's not very last fight because his last fight was for the Contender Series. His last fight, August 26th, was also, I fought on that same card. He was the main event, I was the co-main event, and Drake was there, and he just saw a ton of potential in what I have to offer. He was at my LFA fight too. So he watched me fight Aline Pereira and he's like, holy crap, this chick is tough. And then he watched me get into fight in my home state and just the crowd, the energy that I brought, my fighting style is what people want to see. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
me alone, I'm I can sell, but it's my fighting style that sells me. You know, like I can talk, I can,
Right.
be a face, whatever, but it's my fighting style that people want to see, happen. So
Yeah.
when he's gotten to see me fight my two last fights and he reached out and was like, "Hey, like what's going on? Let's do this." So that was a pretty like massive honor because for me, like I wasn't doing it for the fame and fortune. Fighting for me is honestly that's my hobby. That's what I just love to do. So
Right.
I own a gym and things work that way to be able to help other fighters, but it wasn't like I was trying to, if I make it to the UFC, cool. If I don't, I'm fine with that too. That's not like
Yeah.
where I was super pinpoint focused. And then when Drake reached out and he's like, "Hey, you got it. Like you got what people want. Like what are you doing? Like are you just gonna basically waste it?" And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, okay." And he's not the first person that's told me that. So
Right.
it's finally setting in. I'm finally realizing like, "Holy crap, like I better do something with this before it's too late."
It's like how many people got to tell you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and just my thoughts on Drake real quick and kind of how you explained him. I think it's pretty cool because at the moment, there's something going on in the MMA space, and you hear about it through so many different people as far as like this little monopoly that managers have on the space,
Hmm.
and they're willing to get their fighters to take less money to join the UFC because of their relationship with the promoters and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was mentioning to Dylan that Sean O'Malley, he doesn't really, he's a big speaker about that. And then he has like a business guy, which I know Drake is as well. He's a businessman,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And Drake has like the owner of Sanibel, the like
Yeah.
the gloves and stuff like that. He
Hmm.
kind of helps give Sean advice, and he also helps look over his contracts. And if Sean ever needs anything, I'm pretty sure that's the guy who helps him kind of like with negotiating advice with Dana White and stuff. So I
Yeah.
think it's great that you guys do have somebody who's not so connected in the space, but
Yeah.
he's also able to get you guys some opportunities like he got Dylan on Contender Series. You
Hmm.
guys have a plan right now. So I just want to put it out there for people to know. I think it's cool that you don't have one of those like typical managers that, those five managers everybody
Yep.
knows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. It's a very genuine, real thing that Drake has with me and Dylan. Like
Right.
it definitely is very meaningful.
Right. And I don't know Drake all that well, so I don't want to be a shill for him or anything like that. But I wish you guys the best. I hope it all works out great for, the three of you guys. And uh, last thing I want to talk to you about is your business. I think it's pretty cool that you started a MMA gym and you're able to run a business. That's not easy. So could you explain to me how you even got your business started?
So back in 2006, my husband, which him and I weren't together at that time, he actually started Fightopia MMA. So that's our fight team. Um,
Okay.
and he ran it out of his garage and it became like, hey, everyone started to train. And then they moved to a little mall space, in the Pickle Mall actually back in the day. And then they've had a few different homes. I started training with them in 2014 and the gym was starting to like just there wasn't the consistency that needed to be there for it to be a thriving business. We kept it open for another 5 to 6 years, and then we ended up closing it when we decided that we were going to have another kid. So during that time, we had people, hey, what's going on with Fightopia? People wanted to still train. We had a little home gym that we were doing some stuff in. Um, and then it just kept on getting bigger and bigger. So we started kind of game planning, basically rebranding Fightopia. There was already the buzz. Everyone already knew what we did. So reopening was pretty simple, honestly, but we rebranded the name to Smileback Training Center. So it's a bit more inviting. We offer, kids classes, women's classes, things like that now that we didn't used to offer. And it's really made it a good solid business. Instead of
Okay.
just focusing on, fighters, because let's be honest, most fighters, they don't have money to pay gym dues. They're, like they're barely getting by. If they have like real talent, um, they're not working a 9 to 5, things like that. So, having the new business motto of how we're running it has been, it's stressful, but less stressful than what it used to be. And we're working on bringing some people in to be able to take over the like managing of the front desk and getting new members in and things like that. Because right now I'm doing all of it, and it is a lot.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we're
sure it is.
yeah, we're taking a few of my hats off and giving them to other people right now.
Okay. So just to kind of be clear as far as what you were saying, are you basically saying like you guys have, instead of maybe how your old model was, which was all fighters, you focused on making some money off of like running a kids program and probably some jujitsu classes, I'm assuming, where people just pay a membership, and that makes it easier to like let fighters come in because maybe they just pay a membership fee instead of like taking their fight purse and stuff like that.
Yes, 100%.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what you're saying. Yeah.
Yep. 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 You nailed it.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Just so people understand fully. And did you have to take out like, because this is interesting, and I'm always interested in this stuff. Like, you probably had to take out a loan, right, for the
Hmm.
business and stuff like that. So,
Yes.
what goes into that? Because that's not easy. I feel like you have to have like some income and stuff like that. So, just kind of go into that a little bit. Getting a loan and funding your business to kind of get started. How did that work?
Yeah, so we've been super blessed. So my husband owns his own tattoo shop. So for us
Okay,
financially, like our livelihood is covered with that. So
gotcha.
the gym is literally just like our fun spot. That's just what we do for fun. And as far as we have an investor that we work with, and he's invested basically all the money into getting the gym where it needs to be, getting new mats, getting a cage, getting a ring, things like that. So that was an investment that one of our business partners was all on board to go ahead and do.
Okay, nice. So you have somebody who kind of believes in you guys too, kind of backing
Yeah,
you as well.
yeah.
Okay. And does your husband fight?
He used to back in the day, back in like 2005. So before I ever knew him, he fought. He had two fight because back then it was only professional fighting. So he had two professional fights, and then had a knee injury in training that he didn't have the money to get his knee fixed. He blew a whole bunch of stuff out. And so then that's when he, at 23, I think, started coaching. So he's been coaching for MMA forever, but he only competed those two times.
Okay, just because the injury, and he's always in your corner. I haven't seen your fights yet, but in the future, is he like your lead coach and stuff like that?
So, kind of crazy. When I first came to Fightopia in 2014, he wasn't cornering any of the fighters at that time. So
Hmm.
he would train us and get us ready, and then we had two guys that would come in and corner us, which was tough. That was really tough having, your head coach not being there. And I didn't have him in my corner until now after coming back to fighting, which was another reason why my last fight in 2018, it was for the King of the Cage world title. He wasn't in my corner, and we've had our talk of, I I lost that fight. It was a unanimous decision loss, which it's still kind of arguable.
Hmm.
But it would have, if he would have been in my corner, him and I both know, I would have finished the girl in the first round. It was nothing against my corners that I had. My corners that I had, I love them to death. They're incredible. But there's a different mentality that he gets, that he can really get in myself and all of our other fighters' heads, and like get us in kind of that kill mode. So not having that there with me, I was out there having fun, being technical when I should have been like, hey, this girl's trying to hurt me, I need to hurt her type thing. Um, now coming back, he's in my corner. He's my head cornerman. So it's been
Okay.
the first he first cornered me for my professional kickboxing debut, and that was different. It was a lot of emotions. I wasn't sure because I could tell he was getting nervous, and thankfully that we started with the kickboxing because I mean it matters, but it doesn't. It's not MMA. So,
Uh-huh.
if something went wrong, that was the time to try it out and see. But there was a lot of good that came out of it. So now he's the head guy in my corner, and he's doing really well with it.
Okay. And has it been a little bit of an adjustment? I've heard, sometimes when you're working with family, you gotta set it aside. They can't be your significant other when you're training. So is that something you guys have worked on and been able to kind of deal with over time?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So,
Yeah.
the dynamic of our relationship, like when I started training in 2014 with him, he was in a relationship. I was actually married at the time. My marriage was kind of falling apart, and we were getting ready to go through a dissolution ourselves. So, and him and I's relationship, we had really just became best friends. I was in the gym all the time. So before anything ever, I had trained for about a year and a half with him before there was ever any talk of us being a couple. So we had
Mm.
a super solid, it wasn't anything that was like rushed right into or anything. We had a solid friendship and that trust built before it was like, hey, we're gonna be in a relationship now. Now, how do we figure it out? There was already those boundaries that it wasn't a thing that we had to learn. We already knew each other well enough to know, like, hey, this is the line. We're not going to cross this while we're in training and things like that. There are times where we'll start joking, in front of like our gym people, and then we realize like, ooh, they all of them know us pretty well at this point, but when we get new people in there, we kind of got to reel it back in like, oh, those aren't
Yeah.
funny jokes to people that don't know us.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So yeah, so you guys were able to establish a good coach fighter relationship before you ended up kind of like getting together. So that's
Yeah.
perfect. Sounds like a perfect situation as far as coaching is concerned. Last thing, just to wrap it all up. So going to be fighting probably 2 times by the end of this year, and
Yep.
then 2024. Are you looking? Sounds like based off what you're saying, maybe one more fight, and then you're going to try to get in the UFC
Yeah.
early 2024.
Yeah, I'd say we have a pretty big show in June that we're doing here in Troy, Ohio. And that's gonna be my last like local anything that'll be on the local circuit. It's gonna be that one, and then the game plan is to springboard right into the UFC.
Okay, so actually June will be your cap off as far as
Yep.
your local scene, your regional scene is concerned.
Yes.
And you're hoping that's what will propel you into the UFC.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
That is the
Okay.
game plan.
Awesome. Well, that's a great teaser. We'll be looking forward to it. We've got a long time to wait. Got about seven
Yes.
months, right?
Yes, that is
But
right. And
get them watching all your last fights too. All the fights leading up
yes.
to it.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks, Chelsea. Nice to meet you, and I'll be looking out for June as well as your next 2 fights coming up at the end of this year.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Chelsea, and have a great rest of your day there.
You too. Thank you.